Hello everybody, my name is Ethereal and today I want to give you my deck list more specifically what I'm running. It's still changing like every day. It's not a set in stone deck list. Depends on what my locals actually on my what my local brings, but this is more or less what I bring against what the heck is that called? Narukami, more or less. There's been a resurgence of Narukami players in my locals. So this deck is more towards token spamming. Um because to be honest, that's the only way to counter Narukami with Nuba is just to token spam the hell out of your opponent. So yeah, I'm just gonna start with it. Yeah, I'm going to explain a bit why I use some of the cards. It's like a weird thing that I'm running right now with some Narukami behaviors. Like I don't know if it's only my locals or others Narukami players do this, do that, or something like that. But I'm gonna explain why the whole through. And now I'm just gonna show you my deck. I'm gonna start with grade 3, then I'm going to go to grade 0, and then I'm going to go for my G zones. Let's do this. The first of all, I'm running one Eugene, one Zanki, three Daihuozan, and three uh, Mitsukaze. Mitsukaze for the kill turn. Daihuozan because I'm a lazy person. I don't need to really explain this tree. I'm a lazy person, so I'm just run Daihuozan. I don't really want to think a lot, especially when I fight Narukami. More specifically, think a lot in my opponent's turn. I do really think a lot in my own turn because if you give Narukami slight like advent, like if you misplay one thing, it's just going to make your life even worse. So that's why I run Daihodan, and the more that I realized is that Daihodan is probably the best grade 3 next to Hanzo, that is. The best grade 3 to use for Daihodan because it's passive. So that means you don't have to have any rear guards. It just depends on your opponent's hands. And with the grade for exterminate, yeah. Exterminate, the new stride for Narukami gives you a lot of draw. It draws you to if you fight against the Nubatama. And yeah, this is like normal stuff. I just don't really want to think a lot. I want my opponent to think a lot more. And this deck has been like calibrated to fight against Narukami, like I say. And yeah, so that's why I'm running Daihosan and Mitsukaze. I'm not really running 3 Daihosan because running more than 8 grade 3s is, in my opinion, like it's not bad, but it's not ideal, especially in Nubatama because you have a lot of good grade 1s, a lot of good grade 2s that you want to run, a lot of like generic stuff a lot of Nuba good stuff that you want to run. So yeah, 3 Daihosan and 3 Mitsukaze. I run one Zanki for the finishing turn. There is 9 times out of 10 that they're gonna have a lot of like at least one rear guard, and if your opponent is playing that kind of Narukami, they're going to run Esperaridia. So Zanki is extremely good at that. In your kill turn, you ride this, dominate, you strike into Rene, get to GB3, the 2 attacks plus the 2 attacks that Rin is gonna give. So basically going into Zanki it's good. Basically it's good. Because you get 2 extra attacks for free. And if you somehow manage to stay at Zanki, you can Soul Blast one, call Mitsukaze, and your opponent forced to call something in their hand, and then you use Mitsukaze's skill. That's one grade out of them already before you do anything. So yeah, that's why I run one Zanki. Too bad it's 11k, but to be honest, this is like the best grade 3, like the best lone grade 3 to finish next to Mizukaze, that is. And I run one Eugene. People might be thinking, why the fuck am I running Eugene in this deck? Well, I run Oswald, and that's the first reason I run Oswald. The second reason, so that I can restand my Vanguard, because Mukuro is extremely good with Eugene, because most of nine, like, your opponent can't really do anything at that point. They can't guard because they have no Vanguard, and they cannot G guard because they don't have a Vanguard, so they don't automatically don't have a grade 3 Vanguard. So yeah, just really nice to have. It's 13k base, which is even better. A lot of, like, I the more that I play with this deck, and the more I play with Eugene more specifically, the more I realize that, wow, 13k base is really nice to have in a protect clan. So yeah, I just run this as a one-off because you have searchers, and going into Eugene is like bonus if you like feeling troll, if you wanna troll your opponent. So yeah, 8 grade 3s. I don't want to run more. If I run more, I would put like Esperaridia, not more Eugenes, not stuff like that. Though you can replace the two Oswalds and the Eugene for something else that you just want. Yeah, so that's a grade 3. The grade 2s, I run one Meteor Flare, I run two 12k vanillas, I run two Ungai, I run two Magatsu Gale, and I run four Yamishibuki. The 12k base is solely for mitigating your opponent's superior ride. Um, and plus is 12k base, they need to basically put something else on the back. So yeah, it's just really nice to have. So your opponents, if they don't want to commit to anything, they just have, like, they need to get one trigger to hit, and you don't really need to do anything. And plus it's a 12k base also on trigger, so you can wall up without like anything else, without any boostings. So yeah, it's mainly for like turn 2 when you want to ride. So basically just put this thing down on your Vanguard circle, and there's nothing your opponent can do about it. They need to put a booster, or they can write a specific grade 2, and they can't really superior ride. But if they do superior ride, remember, you still at 12k, so your opponent basically needs to get either a trigger for the rear guards to hit, or they put a booster, which is like a lot of cards, committing a lot of cards to the board that early. You might want to do it, but if your opponent's already at 12k, I just really think that's not worth it at that point, because you can get board wiped easily. Like, and this is also mitigating if they're going first. If the opponent is going first, there's not really anything you can do, to be honest. But at least if you have this on your hand and you write to this, it's not as bad as it can be. So yeah, that's why I run 12k vanillas. And also it's basically because I still traumatized by Ripple, and having a 12k Vanguard really helps a lot. I run one Meteor Flare. Um, the new grade 2, basically a Eugene staple in standard. Um, Only run one. It's mainly to pop only one thing, and you really only need one in Nubatama. It's a 10k base, so if you ride it, you're a 10k base. It's not that good as a 12k, but it's good enough. So yeah, I can pop something with it. It denies your opponent to actually put Dismal, to use Dismal. Basically, Dismal becomes useless, because your opponent's rearguards cannot get any continuous abilities with this skill, and they lose its all continuous abilities. So something like Honolly can be like mitigated, and plus it gains 10k if your opponent has no rearguards. which is why like I usually slap this thing down when facing against like Mukuro or something. Um, because your opponent's not gonna have any regards, and then this is a free 20k beat stick, which is not bad in play. Which is not bad. It's not good, but for nothing, basically, 20k is not that bad. And to guys, I don't need to explain why you run Ungai. Well, in my deck, I run two. Some decks doesn't like don't run this at all, but I run two just in case. I need to reset someone's power if they get an over trigger. If they get any triggers at all, I can reset them to 11k, and this is extremely good when when you have Rene up, because if they get any triggers, you can just reset the power and then just do it all over again. Basically. So yeah, well, not Rene all over again, but they're going to have need to get a trigger again, which helps a lot, to be honest. Around two Gale. Well, this is just mainly for bouncing stuff. It's mainly for bouncing Meteor Flare, to be honest. It's either for bouncing Meteor Flare or you're bouncing Gyokusen, the promo grid one. So yeah. Yeah, plus 6k draw is just a plus. Back then you run it for the draw, now you run it for the bouncing effect. Especially against Narukami, you really want to use the bouncing effect in every single one of your cards. So yeah, this is, and then I'm running for Yamishibuki. This is your token spamming. I've seen like I've played against like some people. Well, I'm not gonna say names. But this certain person in my local, he really likes like token spamming against Narukami. So I'm just basically copied it and I put it on the front row. If they need to they basically need to go to sweep command if they want to go to exterminate dragon, because to be on and pop like soul blast one, and then they need to use another soul blast and maybe like a, and then they don't need to counter blast and blast, but basically they need to go to sweep command, which is like a lot of the time it's not like it's a lot of the time worth it, but again you're soul blasting one for just a token. Yes, you can pop two tokens for a soul blast one, but then again it's just two tokens that literally do nothing. It just hinders you to exterminate. It's really annoying. You need to go to sweep command. Basically, you go to Stunverse, but then you realize Stunverse literally does nothing to tokens, which is why I run four of them. So yeah, um, 11 grade twos, no, 11 grade twos. Yeah. Again, you don't really want to have anything on the field except for tokens on the front row. That's basically how you fight against Narukami. A lot of the times it doesn't work, but you, when the one time it works, when they don't have sweep command, going into Stunverse and just removing two tokens is extremely depressing. Like, to be honest, Soul last one, two tokens, that's it. You need to go to Stunverse at the point. So that's extremely depressing. And if they decide to go to Exterminate and they then pop your rear guards, that's like two draws gone. There's two cards gone, they can't plus because again they have two units. Like in BCS, here back then, like a month ago, I've seen like some Narukami players like thinking like, oh, a token is a unit, and it's like, what the fuck, man? He go to sweep command, he didn't pop anything, he just go to exterminate, and then when he goes to soul blast 2, I thought like, you can't draw. Both of these are units. The same thing like happened to Virat, and this is two different person. The same thing happened to both of us, and oh, really? And then that's like a really dumb time. But to be honest, uh, who knew that leaving two tokens on the front row is the way to counter exterminate? Yeah. By the way, I don't like. I knew putting on a front row like hinders them, but I don't know that it hinders them that much to the point where they need to go to sweep command if they want to go to extra minute. At least for the draw. And to be honest, even then, counterblast like using Chuo counterblasting one for just one token is extremely depressing. And basically, it's an auto stun verse if they don't have sweep command. And yeah, um, and we go to the great ones, which is like a lot of one-offs, a lot of three-offs. I mean, there's no playsets in the great ones, nor in the great threes. I run three Unen, three Sakura Fubuki, three Katari Gitsune, two Oswalds, uh, staple PG order, Gyokusen and Honoli. Honoli to counter Narukami, like to do something with Narukami. They need to pop this thing ASAP. But if you have two tokens on the front row, they need to do an extremely hard choice. That's it. That's all I can say. This is just to annoy the Narukami players. You're not going to win. Like you have a slight chance to win, but if that means like they need to do it, they need to fuck up once. This helps because they can't remove it. Like I know they don't really eat much counterblast, but the counterblast, like one counterblast, one counterblast, one counterblast, it gets annoying real fast. It accumulates real quick, and plus they need to pop this again. Two tokens on the front row, they need to sweep command. If you have Honori on the back row, there's basically nothing your opponent can do. Your opponent basically only draws one. Because and most likely they're gonna remove the Honley, because let's be honest, Honley is a really dumb card. Um, that's why I like it. So yeah, I just run one because technically don't really need it that much. And yeah, it's also 6k, which is bad when facing against Narukami. You usually want great ones that have high power, at least like 8k. If you can run 9k grade ones, it would probably be extremely funny, but also extremely understandable because again, one trigger is like god in the early game facing against Narukami. Like the difference between 1k is big. So yeah, I have an Gyokusen, just one, again tokens, and you're most likely gonna be bouncing it anyway. So yeah, just one. Like yeah, using it just one. I can't really explain it anymore. You just run one of it. Um, PG order. No, PG or Elementaria Sanctitude. Yes, Elementaria Sanctitude. I only run this. I run this because, to be honest, running four draw triggers in Nubatama for draw PGs more specifically, it's good, but I'm playing old man. That's not good. I lost to deck out a lot of times, to be honest. Like, it's frustrating how much I lost. Like to deck out. That's why I just run one. And I also can run 8 crits, which is good. I like 8 crits. I run 2 Oswalds solely for Mukuro Restand Vanguard bullshit. Um, that's all. Yeah, that's it. It's just to troll. Okay, next. Unen. Unen Sakura Fubuki and Katrigitsune, which is just staples. Yeah, you just run this. I run this because they're good. There's a reason on why they're used. There's a reason on why they're staples. So yeah, I don't really need to explain why I run them. It's just they're good. Okay. And for the grade zeros, starter Dragon Empire OT, 3 draw PGs, 4 heal grade 3s, 4 crit strides, and 4 crit souls. 8 crits. Because crit is good and crit is dumb. I don't like crits. Like, I know this is very controversial, but I hate crits from the very beginning of Vanguard. I hate that my opponent can just check 2 crits and win the game instantly. But then again, it's Vanguard, so yeah. Heal grade 3s. Like, I just run them because I want to. Yeah, that's it. And it's searchable with Unen. You can't reveal it, the cost. You can pay the cost by revealing this, but you can search for a grade 3. It's then, yeah, that's all. That's why I run 4. I just really want to play them. You can run like 20k, and you can run the grade 0 counter charge one thing, but I don't really run that. I have enough resource in this extremely fast game currently. In this extremely fast meta. So yeah. OT I don't need to explain. Starter I don't need to explain. Draw PGs I run 3 because uh, as much as I hate decking out, this deck needs the draw in the early game. If you check a draw trigger in the early game, basically sets you up for a really long time because if you haven't realized, you only run uh, 2 cards, not 2 playsets, just 2 cards that lets you draw. That's not good. I don't count Sakurafubuku as drawing, like drawing plussing. In my context, drawing is like plussing. It's just cleaning your hand. Um, so yeah, um, that's why I just run through 3 draw PGs, and to be honest, PG is basically mandatory at this point. Um, Especially like unless you want to run crit sentinels, then it's fine. You can do that, but I don't want to not get draw triggers. Like to be honest, PG is basically saves you the headache of actually thinking. I know 30k is a lot of shield, but a lot of the times, God, I don't have the time to think, and it's premium, and a lot of the time for me, I ran out of time a lot. So yeah. So I basically go to double loss a lot. So yeah, that's why I run, like, that's my normal deck, and I just want to get this video finished because I have like some projects that I need to do in the meantime for college. So yeah, I'm just gonna go to the grid for real quick. Giacomeso too, because it's an extremely good card. It lets you draw, it lets you plus. Basically, practically is counterblast 1, draw 2, call 2. Basically, multi attack a lot. It's your when you literally have nothing, you go to this guy. When your first stride, you go to this guy. A lot of the times, your first stride may vary, but my first stride is usually composing of go to him, my second stride Rene, my third stride Rene, and I win or lose at my third stride. Hell, I win or lose at my second stride because that's how fast this format is, at least like for Nuba players. At least for my locals, my meta field um, locals that somehow like people can afford more like Hissen and everything. I just don't want to think about it anymore. Thinking about it is extremely depressing, at least for me. So yeah, 2 Jacomeso, 2 Dagoku, no, 1 Dagoku, like 1 Dagoku. Um, I run this one because if I fight against Pale Moon, and this is a big if I fight a Pale Moon, if they have Yvette flipped and they f- and they have a and they actually choose your vet. It's actually really nice. Um, and plus it accelerates your GB. It accelerates enough to get you like GB 8 on your like second stride if you have two heals in hand. So yeah, and just run this as a one-off because it's not really that good. It's good when it works, but if it doesn't work, it's near useless and you just flip fodder. But this card affects how your opponent's gonna flip their cards. How they flipping costs for G zones, which is nice. Yatsuka Lord 1. Yatsuka Lord, it's just plus. It's just Counter Blast All Blast plus 3. And if you choose 3 grade zeros, Mizukaze. That's all you need to know. Gilgal. I run it because it's a progenitor dragon. Next. For Rene. I don't need to explain how Rene works. It's an extremely good card since the very beginning. Like when it first came out, and it still is an extremely good card. Mukuro. It's Mukuro, what you expect. Plus, I'm running Eugene, so it's extremely funny to see that they have nothing left and I can resend my Vanguard. Uh, I forgot I forgot what this card name is, but it's basically the counterblast to flip the GB2 counterblast to flip something, and your opponent's hand is now 4. I've forgotten the card name. I don't care about the card name, but I run this one because it's basically counterblast to flip something. Your opponent suddenly screams, "Why?" Yeah, and this is extremely good when you're fighting against like Highlander because it limits your opponent's guarding. It limits how your opponent's gonna play. Um, and yeah, and your opponent's playing Highlander, so they need a lot of pieces in hand, and they need to actually think how they're gonna guard with this card. Yes, you only have 3 rear guards, but in this rare scenario that they have none, aka your opponent's playing Spike Brothers. Again, I run, well, not playing Spike Brothers, but like when your opponent doesn't have any rear guards overall. You have Eugene. You go to Eugene, slap Oswald on the back, and just like see their terror in their eyes to see that they only have 4 cards in hand, and then you have 4 attacks. It's extremely like for me, it's extremely funny to watch them struggle. But I have fought this thing like in a mirror match, and it's extremely annoying. Imagine like having 10 cards ripped out of nowhere, and plus it removes protect markers. So when you're fighting against green blue, which there's a lot of green blue players in my locals too, by the way. It really helps to remove their protects out of their hands. So they basically need to like think how they're gonna do it because if they have a protect in hand, no matter what, they're gonna need to like if they keep the protect in hand, they need that's basically 3 cards, 3 attacks maximum that they can guard. But if they don't keep the protect is gone. It goes to the bind zone. No matter what, face up, face down, it's gone. So that's why you run this as a one-off, just in case your opponent like have like protect markers in their hand. and especially when fighting against green blue, when they like for some goddamn reason always have one in their hand, this card is invaluable. I cannot think of a scenario where I do not have this card fighting against green blue, because I always have to face up damage when fighting against green blue in like before I stride, because they just attack for really hard and quick. And yeah, that's the strides. We go to the G Guardians. One Gehorakan. It's just to dominate the great one. You run this as a one-off because a lot of the time it's not helpful. But at the one time it's helpful because it's the one time. That's why you run this on you as a one-off. It does eats a counterblast and a soul blast, but it does remove an opponent's regards. Like especially when fighting against Messiah, this card helps a lot when with the great one that unlocks the frontal. Because to be honest, good god, having vocal good unlock is extremely annoying to fight against. And then Gando Kurakan, two of. Now this card is like it's basically free value. Um, I do run Old Man, I do run Daihuozan, so this card doesn't really pop out a lot. But at the time when you really like when your opponent somehow still have a lot of cards in hand, this card helps a lot. This card helps a lot, especially after your opponent's Vanguard attack. They're gonna have at least 6 cards in hand, which helps a lot, helps a lot. And to be honest, like this doesn't cost you anything. You just place it there, free shield, and yeah. And then the last one is Morello. If this is the best G guard that Nuba got, to be honest, this is the best G guard that Nuba have. Practically a PG if your opponent's playing Highlander. I know that sounds dumb, but if your opponent's hand is 10 or more, this is practically a PG because a 65k, like, hell, a 40k G guard is big, and this can surpass that. And if they have 4 or less cards in hand, so basically if this has 35k shield or less, you draw a card. It's extremely good. Good god. Like, not even a Nuba player would see this and it's like, oh my god, this card is good. Like, back then, there's this G guard where for every 2 cards your opponent has, this unit gains like 5k shield, and the cost is like discarding something. And again, for every 2 cards your opponent has, that gains 5k shield. This one is just outright better. Yes, it requires a counterblast, but it draws you card too, possibly. So yeah, you run this as a 2 of. I don't run the G Guardian G Fleet Tsakishimi because to be honest, I currently don't want to play that, to be honest. I don't run GBA. The only time when I would run that is with like a GBA thing, and I do not want to like put GBA in my deck because my deck is already tight enough. I don't want to touch anything anymore unless Gilgal is some like became useless for some reason. Then I would put GB8 in because there's a surprising a lot of like it's surprising how like how often you go to GB8 with this deck. For some reason, for some goddamn reason, it's gonna be 1 or 2 turns more than you expect. If you expect like to live for like 5 turns, you somehow live for 6 turns, hell, sometimes even 7 if you're lucky and you haven't decked out yet. So yeah, this is my deck. Like this is just a guideline. Remember that this is just a guideline. and there's a lot of one-offs, to be honest. It's like one, two, three, um, like three. Okay, hold on. Three, four, five, six one-offs. It's not ideal, but it works for me. So if this doesn't work for you, find another deck list. To be honest, again, I play Eugene because if you haven't realized that, I main Eugene, and yeah, maining Eugene in standard, it's interesting. It's not good yet, but it's interesting. So yeah, it's a story for another time. I'm just probably just gonna post it in like another couple of weeks until everything has arrived. But yeah, um, that's literally everything. I have nothing left. So yeah, Eugene standard coming soon, later, maybe, I don't know. I'm making my Eugene deck list after I got like a lot of my high rares done. I'm almost done with my high rares, thank God. So yeah, um, I will see you later. Maybe, I don't know. I'm definitely gonna make that Eugene video, but I don't know when. So yeah, have a nice day. I don't know. Have a nice day or something. I don't even know how to close videos now. God, it's been a long time. Just thank you. Goodbye.